Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Wherever, whenever you're listening to the show, this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice. And as I always like to say, remember, just like the Founding Fathers. This is episode 262, being broadcast live today on April 14th. And of course, if you're listening live, welcome. I'd like to say hi to a couple of very regular listeners, Paul and Rex, who are in the chat room there. Nice to see you guys. And for those of you that listen to the recordings or the rebroadcast, welcome as well. Do join us live sometime if you can. As I said, this is episode 262. Next week is going to be episode 263, a strange number, but it will be a very special one because next week I will go into my last 365 days before I can retire, and that's going to be a little bit of a party, so we'll see what I can dream up for next week's show. In the meanwhile, we've got a lot of different topics. The title says Why We Cannot Trust the Lamestream Media, and some other topics, as is my wont. But first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with our weekly commentary, and let's just have a look at a number of short but sharp topics. Yes, the weekly commentary. And first thing I want to talk about, and it's actually a couple of topics, but they can all fall under one kind of overall thing, is there's a few spoil it for the rest. And there's two major areas I want to talk about this. The first one is, in the last couple of shows, I've been talking about some of the things going on around the Indiana Restoration of Religious Freedom Act, and using the term gay mafia. Well, I was taken to task that specifically by my wife. And of course, when the boss speaks, you have to listen. And I do want to make one thing clear, that using that term, it's to denote a very specific militant wing of a particular group of people. Much like in many other groups, a small number of people spoil it for the rest. So, don't mistake my use of the term gay mafia as being anti-gay. I have nothing against gays. It's my libertarian leaning. I basically say, people can do whatever they like, just so long as they don't force their own morals, their own requirements on me. Now, this gay group is going around and looking for opportunities to claim discrimination and finding them, obviously, and blowing them out of all proportion. That's what I call the gay mafia. I would say most gays, a significant majority of gays, do not agree with what's going on. Yes, we know that gays have had a hard time. They've been put upon. It's only in recent years, really, that they've been able to come out of the shadows, and they should be rejoicing in that, but not trying to push things further, and definitely not trying these strong-arm tactics on people. As I've said before, I think if you find someone who doesn't totally agree with the way you live, then move on. And in 99% of these cases that they've now started suing and creating a fuss about, as I've said in the past, it's not because they're being refused service. And if we think back to the time of the civil rights, yeah, there were situations where blacks were being refused service at lunch counters and things like that. That is discrimination against a person. However, when you refuse to participate in an event, that's the difference, and that's the difference they refuse to make. And also, what about tolerance? You say, okay, you don't like to participate in my event, and it's not even a question of liking, it's part of religious tenet, something that is protected by the First Amendment, that if you can't help me, I'll go down the street to someone else that can. But this militarism, just this wish to force people to do something against their religion just for the sake of doing it. I mean, that's the way it seems. And as I said, I don't think anything but a very small hardcore of gays really subscribe to this way of doing things, but it's unfortunate because they just make things bad for the rest. Same thing we've seen in the last few weeks, last couple of weeks, seen a couple of occasions when the police seem to be getting out of hand. Now, there's lots of stories about that, and I think every month or so we see some strange things, but obviously the recent one where the guy was running away, really no danger to the police officer at all. Police officer unloads eight shots at him. One of them obviously was fatal. Yes, there are rogue police. There are police who do not follow the rules. If you look at what other police officers are saying, their training is if someone is not a threat to them, don't grab for your gun. This guy did. He's got a pregnant wife. He's probably going to be in jail. I mean, it must be terrible for her. But it was a choice he made, and it was a wrong choice. There are some bad apples in the police force. There's a lot of police officers. They're not all going to be good. There's going to be some very good ones. There's going to be a lot of medium ones. There's going to be a few mediocre ones. And there's going to be an even smaller, tiny percentage that are bad, probably like this police officer. And we've got to be careful here. He hasn't had his day in court. But the way it looks, he didn't really do the right thing by any means. But he's one guy out of hundreds of thousands of police officers. So why tar them all with the same brush? And I think that's one of the things. Of course, we know why, because it's the regressive way they want to get rid of the police. They feel they're oppressive. Of course, it makes you wonder, when they do get into power, then they are actually the most dictatorial, the most oppressive, and they use the police and the IRS and the EPA and all these things in the most horrific, forceful way. They use the force of the government when they're in power, but when they're not, when they don't have control over things like the police, then they're vehemently against it. And But to go back to the theme of this first part of the weekly commentary, yes, a few bad apples spoil it for the rest, unfortunately, and give these nutcases on the left opportunity to really ask for what we all know is totally unreasonable, but they still ask for it. Let's see. Let's go on to another topic. And the next topic is really danger, folks. A report by Judicial Watch, a kind of right-wing, hate to say it, think tank. I'm sure they'll say they are non-partisan. They're just looking at anything that the government does. But they have information that there is an ISIS, Islamic State terror group, operating in a camp in the northern Mexican state of Chihuahua. This camp is apparently less than 8 miles from the US border. Folks, think about it. ISIS operating a camp 8 miles away from our porous US border. And the nutcase in the White House says the border is closed. Yeah. Now, it's just 8 miles from the border, just a few miles from El Paso, Texas. Can you imagine that? And this information comes from a Mexican Army field grade officer and a federal police inspector. So they're confirming that. Coyotes working for the Juarez cartel, who are very good at smuggling people and drugs and all sorts of stuff into the country, are smuggling Islamic State terrorists across the border into New Mexico, as well as through the border between Ocala and Fort Hancock in Texas. So what we kind of know, I mean, they have found stuff on the border, Korans and things like that. So they know what's going on. But now we're getting even more proof. ISIS is not just in the Middle East. ISIS is here, folks. And one day we are going to have a shock. The Mexican intelligence sources that were reporting this say that ISIS is intending to exploit the railways and airport facilities in the vicinity of Santa Teresa, New Mexico. Enables them to quickly get away from the border and move more into the US. Folks, this is frightening stuff. And ISIS is working with the coyotes there because those areas have understaffed municipal and county police forces, and they are relatively safe havens already provided by the largely unchecked large-scale drug smuggling that already occurs. So the smuggling's already happening, so it's just as easy to bring in these ISIS people. We know with the drug smuggling, they often, a lot of the time, they bring in people to carry the drugs and smuggle the people in at the same time. You know, the drugs basically go one direction, so why not just get fresh people every time, bring them into the country? They charge them a fortune for that, thousands of dollars, so they're making money on the drugs, they're making money on the people, and now they're making money from ISIS, who has loads and loads of money from everything that they do. And of course, then you also have the mountains of New Mexico, which is becoming no-go territory because of the cartel spotters, and apparently ISIS is involved with that as well. And ISIS is also moving out of the mountains and conducting reconnaissance of local educational facilities things like the White Sands Missile Range, government facilities in Alamogordo, Fort Bliss, and large power stations near Anapra and Chaparral, New Mexico. So all this is going on, folks. And things like power stations, do they have an army guarding them? No, maybe a couple of armed guards. Just need 3 or 4 of these ISIS folks to come in, and boom, down goes the power. And just do that on a nice hot day when we have a heat wave across the U.S., knock out a couple of power stations, and you'll have a rippling effect, and it will just create chaos across all of the U.S. Folks, I don't think people realize how dangerous this is, but okay. I see it is time for the commercial breaks. We'll take a break now. I will be back after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And we're back from that break. Just want to remind folks, if you are listening live, and I know that Paul and Rex are there, so once again, another hi there for this evening. But if you're listening live, click on the speech, the little speech icon in your Spreaker box, and join the chat room there. But if you're not listening live, then obviously you can't participate in the chat room, and I'd love to have you in the chat room. So listen live sometime. That would be one way of doing it. But otherwise, just email me at stephan@patriotcomelately.us, or go to my website www.patriotcomelately.us and send me a comment through the contact form, or send me an email through my email address. You can send me feedback, tell me what you like, what you don't like. You can send me comments, you can send me questions. Love to hear from my listeners. And of course, also, if you like the show, please tell your friends. If you don't like the show, tell your enemies. But anyway, let's go on with the next topic. And as of yesterday, we now have 3 official candidates in the GOP race for the nomination for the 2016 election. Of course, Cruz announced a couple of weeks ago. Rand Paul came in last week, and now we have Marco Rubio announcing this Monday. Have you noticed something about them? They're all 3 first-term senators. Isn't that rather interesting? What about the current person living in the White House? He was a first-term senator as well. So I don't know whether these are going to be the right people. I have to say, I like Cruz. He's stands up for what he believes in, and a lot of people find him a little confrontational. I think we need someone who will stand up and do that. Rand Paul, in some of his interviews, was maybe a little too confrontational, and recently he also earned a lot of black marks as far as I'm concerned, because he said, well, we've got to watch out for pushing this voter ID stuff because certain part of the community is getting annoyed at us for that. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Paul, or I should say Senator Paul, but if that's going to be the way you think, then cross you off my list. Voter ID is very important. Almost every country in the world has it, and we don't. Why not? Well, it's only because the Dems, the Regressives, want to exercise voter fraud. And actually, True the Vote, been doing some research and has pretty good proof that almost 7 million votes were illegally or incorrectly cast in the last election. Yes, 7 million. Now, we have 300 million people that live here, but not that many vote. So think about it, folks. 7 million is getting to be a reasonably large percentage. That's why we need voter ID. That's why we need something to stop all these funny votes going on. But of course, the Regressives are going to say it's racist. I don't know how they can claim that, but you know, if you or I can get an ID, so can anyone else. But we'll see. Anyway, so that crosses Rand off. And then we had Rubio. Now, I think of the 3, Rubio is probably the best speaker. I've heard him live in the 2012 election. He came to speak on behalf of Republicans. Great speaker. I think his speech last night was probably the best kind of announcement speech of the 3. I think he wove things in. Of course, his statement about the person who announced yesterday is touting yesterday's policies. I thought that was brilliant. But again, he is still a first-term senator. Now, of the 3 as well, he's had the most political experience. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. On the other hand, I would really like someone with executive or CEO type experience, a Donald Trump. But Donald Trump doesn't know the political ins and outs of Washington. He's very good at maneuvering the politics of the private market, but how would he do in Washington? So even though these 3 are in, and I think, I don't know, between the 3, and I'm just looking at the chat room here, Rex is saying, you know, any 3 of them is better than the Muslim or the Hildebeest, even though she's having lots of problems. We'll talk about her in a moment. But I don't know of those 3. I still lean a little bit towards Scott Walker because he has the executive experience. He's run a state. He knows how to navigate the politics. He's not perfect either. Then again, who is perfect? So anyway, we have to see. maybe what would be a good combination would be Walker as president and Cruz as VP. As Rex says, Walker has the experience and Cruz has the cojones. Although apparently he doesn't speak very good Spanish. Yeah, obviously Rubio speaks better, and so does Jeb Bush. But Jeb Bush is definitely off the list, even though he's probably going to join in at some time. So I don't know. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on those for the moment. However, now let's talk about Scooby-Doo. Yes, the van in which a certain candidate who announced at the weekend is also driving around. She calls it Scooby-Doo. Now everybody was laughing at that, but apparently the van she used when she was running last time was also called Scooby-Doo. I don't know why she's not using a campaign bus. Is it too early? Doesn't she have enough money? She's supposed to be getting billions of dollars for her campaign, so why wouldn't she use a campaign bus? But maybe that's too big and looks too flashy, and she's trying to be more like the people. But of course, she kind of spoiled things when she went into the Chipotle at lunchtime and sat there and played around with her phone, dark glasses on. Nobody recognized her. The lamestream media was fawning over how ordinary she is to go into a Chipotle and order a whatever it was, a salad bowl or a taco salad or whatever it was she ordered. But she didn't speak to anyone. Of course, you think if you're really campaigning, she would have spoken to the people there, but apparently she didn't. Now, if she wants to appear normal, of course, going into somewhere and constantly playing around with your phone is probably the best way to be normal today, but I don't think that's what you should be doing campaigning. And this whole thing that she's doing with the bus and trying to appear normal, it just reeks so much of falsehoods. And we know she's always lying. But it just, I don't know, I don't think it's coming off, and the left aren't buying it. I mean, you're seeing the left complaining about it. Apparently on one of her fundraising conference calls this weekend, they were complaining that she's not really coming out with ideas. Now, she mentioned a few things today when she was in Iowa, and strangely enough, I thought, you know what, she sounds just like a Republican, because basically 4 of the topics that she chose sounded so very, very much like what Marco Rubio had just done earlier than that. She had her speech today in Iowa, he had it yesterday in Miami, and a number of the topics were almost the same. Well, we know she's probably a copycat, plagiarism, probably copying the ideas, but is that really her? No, she's really left-wing, and the sort of stuff she was saying was too Republican, too conservative for my taste. So, I don't trust her, and I think it's really, I don't think it's real by any means. Yeah, as Rex says, scripted. Exactly. She's trying to be too much of a formula, and I think it's what lost her the race last time. I think it's going to lose it this time. And if someone can come along on the Democratic side and just be normal, they will have a good chance of challenging her and probably even beating her. Rex says, if I was single, I would do Huma. Well, here's a little secret. Comes from, well, I can't tell you where I got this from because it comes from sources very close. But let's just say what you were suggesting that you would do to Huma in the Scooby van probably is occurring, but it wouldn't be with you because you're a male. And Huma bats for the other side, and she bats with someone else quite well known who's in that van. So think about that. But, you may want to try and reform her. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, folks, time for the next commercial break. We're at the We're about halfway through the show, a little bit past halfway. Stick with me. I will be back right after these messages, and maybe, let's see, I got a little bit of music this time. So, yes, we'll have some more music.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We're into the second half of the show. Welcome back, folks. Just a reminder, if you need any of the services that are advertised on this show, please do use the 800 numbers that are quoted, because I don't get paid for running the ads. I only get paid when people call those numbers. So if you need the services, I wouldn't encourage you to call them just to call the numbers. That would be unethical. But if you do need the services, please use those 800 numbers. Before we go to the music, I was in the chat room, was just chatting with Rex about my new Pico Brew machine. I mentioned this a number of shows ago, I think 2-3 weeks ago. It had finally arrived. I did some brewing about 3 weeks ago. It takes about 3 weeks for the beer to get ready, although even that's a little bit early. But my first batch I did keg a week ago, so this weekend, after a week, did try it. It was the pale ale that comes with the machine, and it was great. It's about a 6.5% ABV, so it packs pretty powerful punch, and it's turned out to be quite a nice beer. I have a secret ingredient that I add to change a little bit from what comes out of the box, but just taste, not strength. That's just straight off. And Rex was saying, thinks the machine's too big for the RV. Actually, and I have an RV too, Rex, if anything, this is a way you could brew in the RV. It's not all that big. It's about half the size of a let's say, of a small refrigerator. So it's, I'm trying to think what else. It's kind of like a small oven in size. That's all. So you could probably put it in a corner. Again, RVs are tight, but you could squeeze it in, and then you have the corny keg that you need to use during the brewing. But you could do it in an RV. I think you could squeeze it in. Because the other problem is once you've brewed it and fermented it, you do need to have a kegerator to keep it cold and keep your beer cold. But you could get one. You could even put that outside, and if you wanted to be really fancy, lead a line into the RV and put a tap inside the RV and get your beer that way. Love to consult you on that sometime. But anyway, let's go and have some music, and then I'm going to continue with some of the other topics that I have for you. And I think let's, in honor of the fact that we've got these ISIS camps just over the border from Texas, let's have a real Texas song here.
Deep in the heart of Texas, back in 1835, they drew a line in the sand. The folks at Gonzales had freedom on their minds. It was all because of a cannon that had kept their colony safe. But then General Santa Anna sent some Mexican troops to take the big gun away. You know what those colonists said? Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time. Well, that started a revolution that no one could put down. Like a wildfire for freedom, it's burning even now. You see, even if you got an army, when all is said and done, you just don't mess with Texas, especially when it comes to guns. The Mexicans went home without that cannon. Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time. Now I know the Constitution, and it gives me certain rights that I will never, ever give up, at least not without a fight. So if anybody's even thinking they're gonna take my guns away, like the good old boys down in Gonzales, I got one thing to say. Come on, make my day. Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it one shot at a time.
Yes, come and take it. Nice little Texas anthem there. Okay, but we're going to go on with a weekly commentary and have some good news. Congress pushed through a bill, and the president didn't veto it, that's going to limit his power with respect to the Iran negotiations. But basically the writing was on the wall that it looked as if enough of the Democrat senators were going to go along with it to get a veto-proof majority. And so that was a big win for the Republicans, and especially for Bob Coker, who heads up the committee that shepherded it through. And apparently it was a 19-0 coming out of the committee, and it looks as if it's going to be heading, like I said, for a veto-proof majority as well. So Obama gave up, the regime gave up trying to fight this and have just accepted it. They've managed to get a couple of things softened so it's not quite as strong as it was, but they got a lot of, the Congress, the Republicans got a lot of what they wanted. So after lots of times being stymied by the left, by Dingy Harry, and by the regime, finally we're learning how to beat them. So that was good news, and you know what? I'm going to go on and I think we'll finish the weekly commentary, and I'm going to move on to something completely different. And while I am no major comedian, this is something that I thought you might enjoy, which is why I used that lead in. Of course, some of you will recognize that comes from Monty Python. But anyway, this is the story of Genesis as might be told by a woman. And of course, in the woman's version of Genesis, it is Eve that is in paradise all by herself. And she spoke to God. She said, God, when you made me, you gave me 3 breasts. Why? And God said, well, I gave other animals 6 or more, but I couldn't find a good way to give you that many, so I thought 3 would be enough. And Eve said, well, actually this middle one gets in the way of everything when I'm climbing trees or running through the Garden of Eden. So God said, I can fix that. He immediately removed the offending appendage and threw it in the bushes. A little bit later, Eve sitting down, and she talks to God again, and she says, God, I'm lonely. I'm all by myself. You have made partners for all of the animals. The birds, there were 2 of them. The lions, there are 2 of them. The dogs, there are 2 of them. But there is only 1 of me. And God says, I can fix that. Now where is that useless boob? And while we're talking about feminism, let's talk about Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz. Apparently she drew the smallest crowd ever. She's very good at that. But I think what's happening, of course, down in South Florida, where there are a lot of Jewish people, and she's always been elected by the Jews down in South Florida. Well, guess what? They're seeing what Obama and John Kerry are doing to Israel, and all of a sudden they don't have time for her. So it's going to be fun because, of course, today or yesterday she made a very childish remark about Marco Rubio getting into the fray, and she's always very good at opening her mouth and putting her foot in it, but she did it again. Not literally opening her mouth, but firing off a tweet, and it really backfired. So she tweeted, as Marco Rubio announces for GOP 2016 nomination today, it's important to remember he is no new leader with fresh ideas. And of course this set off a veritable storm of replies to that in the Twitterverse, and she really got surprised with that, because basically everybody said, "Oh, so you want someone new and with fresh ideas called Hillary Clinton?" Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So poor Blabbermouth Schultz really getting blasted there. And that was actually, she tweeted that after talking to a crowd of people at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel in Miami early in the day. Yeah, it was a huge crowd, all of 10 people. So folks, I think that speaks volumes. Okay, we are at the third commercial break. It means we're going into the last part of the show. Stick with me. I will be right back.
Reporting from the eye of the storm. This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks. And I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement. Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again. I'm predicting this storm front is heading your way, so call Basement Systems and relax.
Call 800-205-8665 for your free in-home inspection, or visit basementradiooffer.com. That's 800-205-8665, or visit basementradiooffer.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-750-5371. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-750-5371. That's 877-750-5371.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And we're into the last segment of the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. Just a reminder again, if you want to email me, Stefan@patrickcomelately.us is the email address. You go to my website, www.patrickcomelately.us, and click on the contact button. You can send me a message that way. Love to hear from my listeners. Also want to remind you, if you want to tell your friends when they can listen to the show, if they can't listen live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, which is right now live on a Tuesday, Red State Talk Radio does rebroadcast the show at 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Thursday, 2 p.m. on Friday, and 8 a.m. on a Sunday. So if you want to recommend the show to other people, they can listen that way, or 24/7 at a couple of locations. One is archives.patrickcomelately.us. You can go to the 405media.com and find the show there. You can also go to radio.patrickcomelately.us. That's the site to go to for the live show, but you can also pick up the recordings and listen there. I am trying to get the show onto things like Stitcher and TuneIn. Used to be on Stitcher. I'm not sure if I'm still there, but I have registered with TuneIn, so you may be able to get it that way, especially if you've got a smartphone. Great way to listen to the show. Anyway, The title of this week's show was Why We Cannot Trust the Lamestream Media, so let's talk about that. And basically, the nation's most embarrassing editorial board has humiliated itself once again, or twice again, because I got a couple of things. So, first of all, the in a latest op-ed, they were criticizing the Republicans and calling them racist. But the Times warning that was once the GOP's brutal racism has evolved into a more insidious form of racially inspired criticism that is subtler than its previous incarnation. In other words, if you criticize the guy in the White House, and I won't use the P word there, then that's racism, because it's because of his race, right? Remember, he is half black. Then again, you can also say he's half white. You know, is your cup half full, half empty? And, you know, the things they say are absolutely unbelievable. Perhaps the most outrageous example of the attack on the president's legitimacy was a letter signed by 47 Republican senators to the leadership of Iran saying Mr. Obama has no authority to conclude negotiations over the nuclear weapons program. Well, he does have authority to negotiate, but he doesn't have authority to actually sign a treaty. And of course, this means that the Republicans are racist. Of course, the Times editorial board conveniently forgets the failed disarmament talks at Reykjavik, when a Democratic president was bucking his party and popular opinion by negotiating the SALT II arms limitation agreement with the Soviets. Democratic Senator Robert Byrd, talk about a racist, personally traveled to Leningrad to explain to General Secretary Brezhnev the requirements of our Constitution, which is exactly what they laid out in that letter. Byrd and others opposed the agreement, and he took it upon himself to note that the ultimate terms would have to be ratified by a skeptical Senate. So in other words, this is also, it's all happened before, and the Times conveniently forgets that. And there are a number of other things that they conveniently forget as well. They had an editorial on the NRA convention, and they were gleefully saying how the group was barring working weapons from their annual gathering. Well, they got it wrong there as well, because in actual fact there was no barring of working weapons from the annual gathering. What actually happens, people who are licensed to carry guns in whatever state that annual gathering is being held are quite welcome to bring their weapons into the show. However, display weapons that are there for the vendors are ones which are disabled so they can't shoot. And this is a normal thing. This happens at all shows. It's something that the vendors do as well, because if they get stolen, they aren't usable, and they're not selling guns there, they're just displaying them. So those are things that the Times got totally wrong. The Grey Lady cannot be trusted anymore. So remember that, folks. The New York Slimes, not the New York Times, but the New York Slimes is what we should be calling it. Well, folks, I see the clock has been ticking, and the music is about to start. Just a reminder again, if you like the show, please tell your friends. If you don't like the show, tell your enemies. I will say TTFN, and please join me next week for the special show, 1 Year Till Retirement. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.